watching Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.
Hello, I'm Dr. William E. Morgan, and this is Parker Success Academy, where we explore models of business success and chiropractic practices. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Irum Tahir. Irum, welcome to Parker Success Academy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Morgan. I'm super excited to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been a chiropractor since 2007. I started out by renting space from a chiropractor. That practice got bigger, and I was a coverage doctor as well for him. So I was an independent contractor. That practice got bigger. In about 6 months, I moved into my own location, and I have to be honest with you, it was very terrifying at first. I'm sure we've all had those moments like, is this crazy or is this crazy? But I didn't hire any staff because I still had quite a bit of student loans and everything. So I was the receptionist, I was the chiropractor, I was the billing person. And I was really operating out of less than 1,000 square feet. It was just small space. I had a little table there, a couple of tables, and my little waiting room. And I still remember, I would check people in, go and adjust them, go to the next person, come back, check people out, and then at night I did billing. So
wow,
I never slept. That's probably one of the reasons, though, I'm successful, because I didn't sleep a lot in the beginning. But what I really learned is that I understood every component of what it takes to run a practice, and I really think that that's really important for doctors. I think that we are as chiropractors, we know how to adjust, we know how to diagnose, we know how to we know how to even educate our patients. We're really good with being doctors, but I think we don't always know the back end of it. And I think that doctors should at least understand how to do the back end of it in case there is an emergency and someone does call into work and you have to just be able to pop in there.
I agree. Now, when Claire and I first started our practice, we actually started off as associates too, and we did our chiropractic thing and did super bills, but we didn't really understand the back office until we opened our own practice. And there is something about learning how to do everything. So when you're hiring people, now you can train them to do their job. So there is a value to that. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I love that. And so yeah, thank you for sharing that. You get it. And so, from there, that practice got bigger, and I moved it into a bigger location. Had 5 rooms there, and then hired on staff, and then hired on a massage therapist to rent space, functional medical doctor, and then hired associates. And then that practice got bigger, and then about 7 years ago, I purchased my commercial property. So it's about 4,200 square feet. It's in upstate New York. It's in Syracuse. It's in a central location. And it's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's chiropractic on the bottom floor. And then on the second floor, we've got admin offices, people who rent space, people who are aligned with what we're doing too. And we've got associates in there. So I've got 2 associates in there, and then I've just hired on a third one that's coming on in December, and then looking to bring somebody else on again in 2021 too. So, and I actually operate the practice from San Diego. So
what?
I've been able to extract myself out of practice, run it, manage it, and have systems in place, and then be able to work on top of the business. And now I actually help other chiropractors do the same thing.
Whoa. So have you read the Chiropractic Myth?
Yeah. Yeah, I've read all of the E-Myth books, but yeah, it's a really good book.
Oh yeah. So it basically
work on top of the business,
Yeah. Otherwise, are you self-employed or you're an entrepreneur? You have you're a business owner.
Exactly.
You're a business owner. You said you had functional medicine in there as well?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting story. So some people know my story a little bit, but I was on a path to go to medical school. Ever since I was in the womb, my parents wanted me to become a medical doctor. They wanted me to work with women and children. And so, most kids when they're growing up, they have this, people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they are like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a teacher. I want to be this. I want to be that. And for me, it was always just, Irum's going to be a doctor. And I just, aligned with it. And my dad is a brilliant physician. And, but, I grew up with, everything was medicine for everything. Every single thing was, you had a little sniffle, you got medication. You had a little cough, ooh, go get this medication. All of our pens, had medicine, pharmaceutical names on it. And of course, there's a place for drugs, that there is out in the world, and surgery, of course, too. But we had medication for everything. So, and my dad was a great physician, like I said, absolutely phenomenal. And so when I decided to go to chiropractic school and I thought there must be a more natural way to heal the body, that we can have health come from within. And my dad was really upset. My parents were like, no, like, this is not what you want to do. You don't want to waste your life like this. What is chiropractic, and why would you want to do that? And I don't know, I just stuck with it. I'm going to be honest with you. I struggled in chiropractic school, just out of transparency. I was not doing well. I didn't feel I had a lot of support. I just didn't feel like I was doing a good job for my parents. I felt like I was disappointing them too. So I wasn't doing well my first year. I almost failed out. It was really bad. I was very upset, crying most of the time. It was stressful, and if any students are watching this, I can relate, what it feels like. But I stuck with it, and I knew I had something in my heart that was telling me to keep going. And I graduated chiropractic school, and my parents said, oh, this is great, but now you've got to go to medical school and really finish your education. And I grew up with all medical doctors. All of our friends were medical doctors. Our family friends were medical doctors. All of the kids growing up, they all went to medical school. So that's all you basically were doing, And I was the one that went to chiropractic school, and it was just like, no, this is not what you want to do. And so I decided I wanted to build the biggest, baddest practice when I got out of school, so I could basically prove my parents wrong. And so I went down the path of chiropractic, put my head down, and in the Great Recession of 2008, built this practice. And I kept educating my parents about holistic and health and, wellness lifestyle. And I would come to their home and I would throw out the country crock margarine, and I'm like, you can't be eating this. And I'd be throwing out all of their stuff out of their fridge. And, my dad really started learning more about functional medicine and nutrition and health and healing, and actually made a complete 180 and became a functional medical doctor. And he is, and he does all cash practice. It's a very low key practice, but he actually gets people from all around the world, flies in, even with COVID, over online. He's booked solid for months. He specializes in the endocrine system and the thyroid, and he helps people with complex cases. So he's made a complete 180, and he does prescribe medication, but he looks at the holistic way of helping to heal the body in his own way. And he gets people off of medications and things like that. And he gives people their life back, basically. So he actually rents space for me now. So we work together, and he's one of the people that are in my practice, and he rents space, and, we work together. We share patients back and forth. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So is that where you grew up? Upstate New York?
So I actually grew up in New York City. I was born in Kenya. I'm in Africa, so I'm Kenyan. Whoa. And my ethnicity is Pakistani. But I grew up in Kenya, moved around all around the world, and then my dad decided America is the best country in the world, which it is. To be honest, it's the greatest country out there.
Well, I practiced briefly in Liberia, Africa, when I first graduated as well. So I know there's a lot of Asians who run a lot of the businesses there. As you know, it's a lot of the stores and a lot of the professions are run by people from Asia rather than Africa. So it's kind of odd how that works. But it's an interesting story. So before he became a functional medicine doc, what was your dad's specialty?
He was in internal medicine.
So it was a pretty easy transition from metformin to berberine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the cool thing is that, he can manage people's medications, take them off of medications, all of that stuff. So he really uses a combined force. But even in his own health, he's healed his own body, and gotten out of a lot of health challenges just through nutrition and diet and supplementation and herbs. Yeah.
Or our philosophy, of course, is just to remove the barrier to good health and let the body heal itself. And that's the big idea. And and even a functional medicine doctor can practice in that manner. So what's a fun fact about you, something interesting that people might not know about you, besides being Kenyan?
That's a good question. So I did grow up in New York City. That's kind of a fun fact. So I love New York City, I love the Knicks. They're a terrible team. They're just a terrible basketball team. But you gotta love them if you're from New York and New York City. Really, like I have a pretty clean diet, but my like weakness is pizza, like really good New York style pizza. Like I love pizza, but I try not to eat it because I do dairy free, gluten free, and alcohol free, just clean diet. But I I love pizza. I just can't say anything about it. I just love it.
So one of the questions I would ask next would be, what other than chiropractic do you have in your practice? Do you have any other professions or therapies? But you've already answered that. Anything else besides functional medicine that's in your practice?
Yeah, and we have massage, too. But honestly, I mean, the chiropractic part is the busiest part. With our techniques, we do use SOT. We are the #1 pregnancy chiropractic center in all of upstate New York. We see a ton of pregnant women. That's one of our biggest specialties. We work with about 16 to 18 OBGYN practices. And I think that like working with medical doctors, honestly, I know a lot of chiropractors sometimes they go, well, why would you want to work with a medical doctor? That's, we're against medicine. But I don't think so. I mean, I think that's where all the sick people are.
Oh, that's
in
exactly what
office.
I say. That's where the sick people are.
So if we go in and we educate the medical doctor, if we educate the OBGYN about how we can help their patients and how we specialize, that's how I built my practice. I mean, that's why I'm hiring more people, more associates, because that's our specialty right now, and concussions too.
So if you just have 15 OBGYNs who send one patient a month, you're busy. You're made. And so it's the source of referrals. So what is your personal definition of success?
Oh, that's a good one. I think the personal definition of success that I'm striving to is to keep reaching your highest potential. We all have untapped potential. We all have 24 hours in a day. I love my sleep too. I love sleep and pizza. Basically, I'm Garfield. But we all have 24 hours in a day. It's what we choose to do with that time. One of the biggest things I hear all the time is people say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And then second to, I don't have enough money. And I think a lot of it is, success to me comes from our mindset. It goes back to the Parker principles too. A lot of those principles are based in mindset and about who you are as a person, and if it is to be, it's up to, if it's to be, it's up to me. I'm creating my destiny. So I wanted to create an ability to be able to have my practice completely automated, systematized, and be able to live in San Diego or live in Thailand if I want, or live in Hawaii. That's possible. I think most people cap themselves at what they think is truly possible for themselves. And I think we have so much more potential than we give ourselves credit for. And I think we don't really untap that potential. And I think it's up to us to be around the right people to untap that potential. I mean, I'm a big fan of like coaching. I'm a big fan of mentorship. I mean, you and I have had some fabulous conversations, that have elevated me and elevated my mindset. And, I'm really appreciative of that. But surrounding yourself with the right books, with the right media, even social media, I don't think people realize, those messages and images are going right into your mind. And if it's a lot of negativity, you're going to start feeling negative. So I think success comes from ourselves, and it has to come from like our own untapped potential and keep reaching towards more. And for me, I really want to keep breaking glass ceilings in chiropractic. I want to keep pushing chiropractic to the forefront. I just want to keep being out there and proving that it's possible.
Well, you're doing a great job of it. You talk about barriers and breaking through. I saw a quote the other day talking about fish, that fish will only grow to the size of the container they're in. A goldfish or a shark, whatever, if there's a barrier to it, they'll only grow that big. To grow more, you have to put them in a larger environment and larger environment. So if you're not growing, you probably need to move into a larger environment and surround yourself with other people who allow you to grow. So you mentioned reading. Is there a book that you would recommend?
My go-to book that I go back to all the time is Dr. Wayne Dyer, Power of Intention. I just really love that book. It's a simple book. It talks about, again, we create our life. We create our intention of what we want. It starts with us. So a practice tip, for example, like one thing we always teach when we're teaching in our classes is you do an intention every morning, with your team as a team huddle, and everybody creates the kind of environment they want. And I think one of the things that really sets us apart in our practice and distinguishes us from everyone else out in the market is people walk in and they're just like, and they just feel like they can relax and they're at peace.
That's
because of the intentions that we create.
That's wonderful. I remember when I was in private practice, before I went into hospital-based practice, that experience. We always had music playing, so as soon as they walked in that room, the waiting room, the CAs, you know who's coming in that door next. You got their name right in front of you. Make sure you greet them by their name, and greet them, have them feel relaxed, have comfortable chairs, soft music playing. And one of the big compliments I had in my practice was the music. Soothing music, and it was a safe respite. As soon as you came out of the hustle and bustle of the world, if you're in our practice, it's a time of relax and healing.
Yes, I love that. That's 100%. That's exactly what it is. We create a safe space for healing, right?
And they will want to come there. They're attracted to that. And your intent is to make a safe, healing environment. They get it. Now, what's your worst moment in practice? What's something that's really...
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I don't share this story very often, but I will share it with our viewers here. So, because we're being vulnerable, and hey, success is not all the glory. I mean, there's a lot of the hard moments and the difficult moments and the painful moments. So, I was, remember how I said I had moved into my own location and then I moved to a bigger location. That location, my second location is where I was. That was, it was a rental. So I was, renting space, a commercial space from a landlord. And what had ended up happening is they were not very good landlords. They would never do the stuff that they needed to, but I kind of just, went about it, just did it myself. Or, I remember once there was the dead mouse stuck in the closet. It was stinking up the place. It was so terrible. I'm like, okay, I'll just take care of it myself. I just dealt with the things myself. But when the landlord, he passed away, and his daughter took over, and then she got really sick and she was passing away, the family all became, not to be mean, but kind of like little vultures around all of the properties. And so there was this huge, estate battle, and they were fighting over the properties. And they actually sent somebody to harass me because they wanted to force me into buying the property, but I didn't want to buy it because it wasn't as well maintained as I would have done myself. And it was a kind of a scary time. I had someone that came to me and was threatening me and harassing me. Wow. They blocked the driveway so our patients couldn't drive out and leave. it was really bad. It was a really bad time. And I said to myself, I've got to get out of this location for sure immediately. So I had been looking at places to move my practice to. And it was definitely a very stressful time. But I kept coming back to the building I'm in now, and it was for sale, and I didn't want to buy commercial property. I really did not want to do that. But like you said, sometimes the universe asks you to play bigger and be in a bigger environment and a better environment. And that's not always a pleasant experience. It's probably usually stressful sometimes. But I remember, my realtor showed me different places, and I said, well, what about this place? And he goes, well, this is for sale. And I'm like, let's take a look at it. And I was like, I loved it. I loved it, but it was so well maintained and it was beautiful, and I could see the vision of it, but it was expensive. It was a huge down payment for someone so young, just kind of recently having come out of school. And I didn't want to take out more loans and stuff like that. Well, for a down payment, you can anyway. So I was basically trying to, save as much money as I could. I was living on rice and beans. I had a cat at the time. She was eating the lowest grade cat food possible. We were both eating bad food, just rice and beans and just basic stuff. And, but I was able to build that down payment and get the building, and overnight was able to take my life into my own hands. And then, it had to move my practice in there pretty quickly. So wow. Over a weekend.
Well,
yeah.
And I bet you don't mind making upgrades now like you did when you were a renter, do you?
No, not at all.
You want it to be just right. I know when we purchased, it changes everything. So
it changes everything.
What advice would you give a younger version of yourself as you graduate from college?
Oh, yeah. So I think the advice that I would give is, like we said before, definitely surround yourself, with people better than you, who know more, who are more experienced, who've been in practice longer. Like I said, you and I have had some great conversations about practice, and, just, you are you have had so much success. It's fascinating if you look at some of your journey, Dr. Morgan. It's, you can learn so much from people just learning about their journey and what not to do and what to do. So I think that I'd give myself like advice, but I think also like doing some, being open to doing, mentorship, coaching, training, like learning. I think I could have cut my learning curve down quite a bit. I think I could have been further along in a lot of ways, if I had someone had just said, hey, this is how you do a basic report of findings. You do need to educate the patient. You need to help the patient understand what we're doing and why and how and what chiropractic is, and, things like that. Like I just had to learn a lot of those things like the hard way too.
And the report of finding is one of those things that's almost uniquely chiropractic. Physicians don't do that too often anymore. I mean, I guess if you go in to get a cancer diagnosis, they're going to explain it to you. But usually if you go to a medical doctor, they're just, you got this, take this. It's very little of, here's the underlying issue. Here's the long game for getting you better, restoring your health.
Right, exactly.
No, so chiropractic marketing and advertising to patients has been a big topic. What tips would you give based upon your practice in regard to marketing and advertising?
Yeah. So, we are, I mean, a lot of our patients are wellness-based patients. Like we have a wellness practice. We see a lot of babies, we see pregnant women, we see families. Um, you know, we, it's a very, healing environment, like I mentioned. But I think one of the biggest things that any chiropractor can do, and that I feel like I've really gotten a handle on, is working with medical doctors. I mean, I go back to that. They are decision makers. They are key decision makers. They understand. They're the ones who are going to guide a patient's health one way or another. That's where all the sick people are. But I think most chiropractors either sort of say, "Well, no, that's medicine. I don't want to do that." And they're like, we're not dealing with that. I don't want to deal with medical doctors. I'm anti-medicine. Well, you don't have to take the medicine. You can just work with the medical doctors to help them understand how is chiropractic unique and special and different from physical therapy, from massage, from injections, from corticosteroids, from, myofascial work. Like what we do is so special. It's so different. And then when that patient comes into our practice, it's our job, not anybody else's job, our job to educate the patient. It's our job to help them understand, listen, this is where this issue is coming from. One or two adjustments isn't going to fix this. This is a problem that we need to make sure that we actually address the root cause of. It's our job to educate them. And I think once I've really started, working with medical doctors, especially OBGYNs, it has made such a huge difference in my practice. I mean, I probably increased my revenue by 250,000 just by working with OBGYNs. So, I mean, it's a direct return on investment as well. And it's just a matter of educating those doctors and knowing the right language,
And being authentic, being honest, don't overstate the science. I'm big on evidence-based care, but the evidence on our side is so good. But don't overstate it. So there's a point where you lose your stature with them if you lie or if you use excessive. And some patients come in like, there's no evidence we can help this, but we can do a trial of treatment. You've got whatever ear infections. We don't have strong evidence for that. I've seen patients get better. I've seen patients not get better. We'll do a trial treatment, see how you respond. No medical doctor is going to fault that. In fact, when I first started at Walter Reed, I started getting referrals for ear infections and colic for babies. Initially we were allowed to see infants from the peds, and from people who initially didn't want us in the hospital, but eventually it came around like, we've tried everything else. Let's try chiropractic.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is a matter of educating the medical doctors and helping them understand this is a collaborative effort. We're not taking away from anything, but I think people go into medicine because they genuinely care for people. If they really wanted to make, ton of money, they would be, in
Bankers.
finance.
Yeah,
Let's just be honest. They would be in a hedge fund. They'd be doing mutual funds, stuff like that. Like, people go into medicine. They want a comfortable lifestyle. They want to drive a nice car. They want their kid in private school. They maybe want another house in Vail. Something like that. But it's not like they're in it for like a ridiculous sum of money. They do get into it because they care for people. They want to help heal people too. But they just don't know about chiropractic. And a lot of them are taught in medical school that chiropractic is not, you should not be sending people to a chiropractor. And there's all these risks. And I mean, I've done talks in front of medical doctors, like 200 medical doctors, 300 medical doctors. And I was invited to, and actually I just got invited again to do continuing medical education for them about chiropractic. So going in and speaking to them, helping them understand chiropractic, but then, you handle all of their concerns in the presentation is really one of the biggest things. So that when at the end of it, you're not having all these darts thrown at you. You know what I mean? Like, they need to understand chiropractic is safe. We have an alternative. I mean, our malpractice is so low for a reason, because it is a safe, natural way to heal the body.
And they know, whether they admit it or not, the ill effects of drugs. They know better. They've had people die from the pill they gave them. They've had a reaction. Virtually every physician I know has lost people to not the wrong use of the drug, but the correct use of the drug, and they die. Yeah. So they know, and if they're true in their heart, looking for the best of their patient, they're looking for safer alternatives, and chiropractic fulfills that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what keeps you up at night?
Oh, so I think it goes back to like my, you asked me about the question about success. For me, another definition of success, or something I'm always reaching towards, is having balance between my personal life and my business. I love helping chiropractors. Now I actually teach chiropractors about how to work with doctors. I like to help their practices and grow them and develop them and increase their revenue. That's, we have to have a good living. I think so. We have to have a really good living, and we got into it to not be just surviving and living paycheck to paycheck. And I just, we're having an honest conversation. I think a lot of chiropractors are having those types of moments where they're not thriving. They don't know how to educate the patients, and their business is going under, or they're getting out of chiropractic. I think it's really huge number of people who are getting out of chiropractic because they just don't understand some of these things that we're talking about today, and they just have to put them into place. So I think what keeps me up at night for me is, I do get personally invested in some of the chiropractic practices that I work with. And I do worry about them a little bit, probably a little too much, but also at the same time, I think what keeps me up is that, like, I often struggle with having a balance between my personal and my professional. I am that person who has, been up till 2-3 in the morning working on business and worked, and I'm learning, I've got to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Like, that's my boundary I have to make for myself. I have to do self-care. I have to take care of myself, simple things, but.
Well, you have a lot of passion, so you're either all in or you're not. And it kind of leads to our next question. So we at Parker frequently talk about the 10X concept. What is something that you did in your business that had a 10 times return on its investment or its effort?
Oh, yeah. These are such great questions. Thank you. I think, honestly, investing in my team. I mean, we talk about this too at Parker, at the seminars. I love that we always have a huge CA track, and it's not just, basic classes. I mean, these are really hearty, good classes, great content, like people are taking notes, walking away with stuff.
And you help teach these classes often.
What's that?
And you're one of our teachers. So.
Oh, yeah. I love speaking to the CAs and to the doctors. I love it all, But I think, like, investing in your team, you will never go wrong. Listening to the team, having weekly team meetings, Tuesdays at 2:00. That's when we have our weekly team meeting. Doesn't matter what else is going on. We connect, and each person gets to voice what's been going on in their department and what their thoughts are, and using the group brain to be able to really help the practice grow and develop. And then I think also things like profit sharing, bonuses, investing back in the team that way, and sometimes people get nervous about that. They go, oh, I don't know if I want to pay bonuses out. I'm like, we don't have a lot of revenue coming in, but even if it's something small, it doesn't have to be huge. It could be a $25 gift card, showing appreciation, getting them a Starbucks, getting them coffee, getting them lunch. I mean, I think that's something that I wish I'd even done earlier. I've really learned a lot more about that now, but I think your team is everything. Your practice is nothing without a great team.
I agree. And one of the number one reasons people leave a practice or a business is they don't feel appreciated. More so than their pay, but they don't feel appreciated. So 2 last questions. What's one takeaway you'd like to leave with our audience? And what's a good contact for you? What's some contact information for you, Irum?
Yeah, sure. I think that, well, one takeaway, we've talked about so many great things. I can't believe this interview is wrapping up. But, we've talked about so many great things, but I think one takeaway, would be, I think invest in yourself, invest in your team, constantly keep learning and growing, don't have an ego, that's something I also, have to keep myself in check. Like, I don't know everything. I need to learn the skill set, and it's okay if you need to learn a skill set, whether it's hiring the right employees or bringing on the right associates or giving them the right comp or, learning a skill set of marketing or social media or not one person can know everything. And we don't learn a lot of this in chiropractic in lots of different places. Like now there are lots of different places we can learn it. Books and seminars and coaching and consulting and mentorship and training. But I think it's like you have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in your team and knowledge with the knowledge, because the skill set, like you just may not have it, and that's okay because you can learn it.
So what's some way our audience can contact you?
Oh yeah, so I'm definitely on Facebook, Dr. Irum Tahir, and then also I have a personal page on my Facebook. You can always go to www.ignite-spark.com. You can see a little bit more about what I do there. And I am on Instagram too as Dr. Irum Tahir. So I got my name. That was good.
Wow, fantastic. Well, Dr. Irum Tahir, thank you for joining us today at Parker Success Academy. And we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. It was really fun.
All right. See you at the seminar.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching another episode of Parker Success Academy with Dr. William E. Morgan.